Hello and welcome to Military Mayday, where we're pointing out a few pieces on the chessboard. We've got a few pieces to take a look at today. They're interesting and important. We're going to take a look at the ex-Pentagon advisors saying that the U.S. is in a catastrophic situation. Putin is told to go die on the front line by soldiers' wives. China builds a new highway near India to move troops for border standoff. This is a really important story. And the AS-24 KILLJOY A-launched ballistic missile system. This is a Russian system. I've yet to see any of the aftermath or any photos of the bombing. I'm sure they're out there or they're not. And then we're going to go over this one here. This is an important little article. This man has been spot on since I started hearing of him and listening to him. And we'll want to get into that article too. But before we get started, I want you to smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, get this information out to people. There's stuff on here that people need to hear. Let's get started here. Washington, SANA, former Pentagon senior advisor, Colonel Douglas McGregor, described the situation in the United States as catastrophic, considering that American society has become a free fall where there are no controls or clear policies. Yeah, you couldn't state that any better. The Europeans look at U.S. President Joe Biden as an example and a direct reflection of the catastrophic situation the U.S. has reached, McGregor said Tuesday. McGregor added that the Europeans see the America in a state of sharp decline as it is no longer supervises its borders and immigration affairs in it. He's spot on there. And it is no longer suppresses the crime, but it turned into a society to fall to the free without the Americans knowing where they are. Biden's popularity has declined to its lowest levels during his presidency, according to a recent poll. Well, yeah, they were pretty low before he even got in my opinion. But yeah, there's not much here he didn't say that's wrong. The problem is that he just is pushing more money to the Pentagon so they can send overseas. And this little article coming up explains a lot of that. Putin's told, go die on the front line. Go to your front line yourself and die. This is the blunt message of the wives and girlfriends of mobilized Russian soldiers to the Russian leader, Putin. Partners and enlisted men are demanding an end to the slaughter that Putin triggered 2 years ago when he invaded Ukraine amid a upsurge in anti-war protests in Russia. Vladimir Putin, what have you brought people to? The demand of soldiers' partners on their way home. We Russians have no hope left under your leadership. Finish your work and sit down at the negotiating table, the woman's protest channel said. Channel members slammed Putin's reasons for staging a war, which is estimated to have killed or maimed over 300,000 Russians, amid clear signs of a female backlash against forced mobilization. What the hell are denazification and demilitarization? If you don't really... The way home asked, do you yourself understand what you are talking about? Every time you say these words, people die. Let us live in peace, or go to the front line yourself, or die, they demanded. What the hell are denazification and demilitarization? Yeah, women really just don't need to be involved in this stuff, really. This will not happen because the interest of the authorities must be served at the expense of these soldiers, ordinary Russians. First of all, they're not ordinary Russians. A lot of them signed up. They're wanting to protect you women from certain things that could be happening. How cynical do you have to be to continue this bacchanalia and put a good face on a bad game? The channel highlights one mobilized soldiers, Alexandria 27, who tells Putin on a video, just let them go home. Everybody wants to go home. Everybody really wants to go home, be told. How Russia propaganda says Ukrainian soldiers are sent to war like meat. Yeah, this was exactly what was happening in Russia. Yeah, men tend to go and sign up for this stuff. Here's some more of these pictures. I'm not going to get all the way into it. Yeah, war's hard on women. It sure is. But what's harder on women is your way of life being turned into trash, basically. China builds new highway near India to move troops for border standoff. Yeah, China is on the verge of completing a new highway near its contested border with India, potentially allowing the rapid mobilization of the potential liberation's army troops during a conflict as military standoff between the two Asian giants continues. Yeah, that road's highly important. In India's Ladakh region to the east of the line of actual control, China has long fretted about the Achilles heel called the G219 highway, which runs along the country's entire western and southern border, linking the regions of Xinjiang and Tibet. Historically, Chinese military strategists lost sleep over wartime access to the G219 during a conflict with India under Chinese leadership. Xi Jinping, who has vowed to defend every inch of the nation's claimed territory, Beijing has been addressing the vulnerability and is close to completing an alternative route known as the G216. Plans for the roadway, part of the network that could one day deliver China's armed forces directly into the future hot zones, were announced by Beijing on July 2022 in the aim of creating strategic backbone passages out of the Xinjiang and into Tibet. This line is closer to the China line border. The China blogger observed at that time, predicting a stern protest from the External Affairs Ministry in New Delhi. Bet your ass it will. Here we go. I'm believing that this line here is the old one. Publicly available footage from the region analyzed by Newsweek showed these new sanctions of the G16 now accessible to tourists traveling across Xinjiang. China's state broadcaster CCTV last month celebrated the opening of the new tunnel from Urumqi to Yuli County, both Xinjiang, which is now considered to be the world's longest. A trending hashtag on the Chinese social media app Weibo declared in late November that the country's infrastructure was about to break through Tianshan, referring to the mountain range. Hidden behind these celebrations, however, was Beijing's progress in linking the G216 to disputed areas on its border with India. Footage online showed the new highway passing close to Aksai Chin and Xinjiang, a region claimed by the India part of Latvia. The highway transits across the northern borders and will become an important road against India because that is a connection through which a large shifting of forces can take place. It's like India is expanding its own strategic infrastructure on its side of the border amid the lingering specter of armed conflict with China. Chinese Foreign Ministry and India External Affairs Ministry did not return separate written requests for comment before publication. Neither one of them are going to go on the record because they know what's coming. You know what's coming. And India is backed by the U.S. If they're smart, they'll stay that way. Okay, here's the AS-24 KILLJOY air-launched ballistic missile. This is one that I haven't really seen any pictures of the aftermath of. Russia launched at least one missile into central Ukraine, likely targeting a military airfield. The UK Defense Intelligence report one of 6 super weapons President Putin announced in 2018. Air-launched ballistic missile has been earmarked to play a major role in Russia's future military doctrine. In the Ukraine war, Russia has reserved the weapon for what it perceives as high-value, well-defended targets. KILLJOY has almost certainly had a mix of combat debut. Many of its launches have likely missed their intended target, while Ukraine has also succeeded in intercepting attacks by this supposedly undefeatable system. Yeah, and again, there's no aftermath. It's not showing anything. I read an article where it almost looked like Russia might have admitted it, but I don't think they did. This is one we're going to read real quick. Assessing the threat of an economic meltdown. This is World Affairs Brief. Joel Skousen. I've been following him for a long time, and he's always been right. Every time I said something about dollar collapse, he says, no, don't worry about it. This guy's amazing. There is no denying that we are in a huge inflationary bubble of sky-high stock prices, falling bond prices, and high price inflation between 10 and 15% a year, far higher than the Commerce Department's manipulated consumer price index. This all translates to an economy that is very vulnerable to any disruptions. And that's not even considering the disruption that communist China, a future enemy, could create, seeing how we depend on her to supply about 80% of our consumers and technical products. The rate of inflation hasn't receded much in spite of the high interest rate strategy of the Treasury because it only dampens a portion of the economy. The truth is that the Fed continues to create and distribute to insider banks and off-budget accounts, much of it military, secret federal spending to the tune of hundreds of billions of dollars each year, which never shows up in public money supply figures the Fed publishes. While Jim Rickards and other financial doomsayers have been predicting a financial collapse ever since 2010, people keep wondering why it hasn't happened yet. There's only one answer: the Fed's ability to secretly keep the bubble inflated, and the fact that the international monetary world keeps absorbing part of the billions of dollars the Fed creates, as every other country in the West is deficit spending too, and depending on dollar bailouts when their banks are in trouble. But with the publication of The Great Taking and the warnings by the WEF chairman Klaus Schwab about a huge cyber attack next year damaging the economy, it's time to assess these new predictions about economic collapse and how they might affect us. To receive a free one-time copy, this is his thing here. But yeah, The Great Taking, I haven't read it, but if he's warning about a huge cyber attack next year, then it's something to pay attention to. It might be where we're going. I don't know how they're going to pull that off, considering nuclear power plants are connected to the internet. Here's some of the articles that he offers. Tries to dispute Ramaswamy, and he's revealed truth. IDF trial of flooding Hamas. Supreme Court declines to block Illinois assault weapons ban. We're just Uber drivers. Border Patrol agent says America is being destroyed. Our border is trash and in a lot of trouble. Anywho, if you like this information, subscribe and like. Toodaloo.